I wanted to share something that I thought may have been tailored if I didn't post it all at one time. And so I took a verse from my sister and I did two devices, but with one purpose. But really, before I tell you my story, I feel like you can preach this all by yourself and all for yourself. That you don't have to hear anybody reverb yours, because you've lived your experience of what your last year was just by yourself. I looked at one of the videos from last year, and it was on anxiety and how to avoid it. The Bible reminds us that we ought to be anxious, not for anything. And I know we find ourselves in a worrisome state, and if there's wanting to complain or wanting to be anxious about so many things. As I reviewed last year, when we were not sure how we were going to pay for the hotel the next night. It says, don't be anxious when our account was locked up and I had no access to it and no outcome or no real insight of how to get it. God gave me that verse of don't be anxious when it seemed like there wasn't a way to come out. You may have not faced this kind of a situation last year, but I know between that time and this time, somebody's faced something that's been hard for you, that's been difficult too. I don't know if it's a job, I don't know if it's schoolwork, I don't even know if it's just friends, I ain't being friendly. But whatever it is, I know that his word for me was don't be anxious. As I recap over that, I think about today, and how in so many lights we look at past words and we think that maybe because he provided me through that, then for the rest of my life, everything's gonna be okay. I came to tell you not no bad news, but I came to tell you the reality of what this past year has been. It ain't been all good. It ain't been all bad either. But it hasn't been everything that I thought it was gonna be. But it hasn't been as bad as what there was spoken over me. You got to know when he decrees and declares for you that I want you to have life, that he spoke that over eternity. So there's no place where God spoke your salvific grace to come and live in the freedom of his acclamation that he bestowed by speaking the word over you, that you would be in suppression from it, that you could be in lack of it. I'm not trying to preach. All I'm telling somebody is that it ain't look like what it ought to. It ain't look like what it was supposed to. It ain't everything that was bad that meant to happen, that should have happened to me. It didn't happen that way. It didn't go the way that I thought. It didn't go the way that they said. It didn't. So all I'm saying is that the worst, I ain't seen it. All I'm saying is the best, I ain't seen it either. I know that there's still better to come, and there's still worse days that are behind me that people thought was in front of me. But because God was ever for me, there's some stuff that I'm not subject to. He said, Jeremiah, let the people know today that a year ago I told you don't be anxious. God, I'm not here for the excitement of being seen, but I'm here because I need a savior. Don't be anxious. Last year to this year, my family has been broken into so many pieces. And he said, Jeremiah, I want you to tell the people to don't be anxious. From last year to this year, my circle has become obsolete. He said, tell the people don't be anxious. From last year to this year, there's hardly people that I knew running the same circle as the people that I know. And he said, Jeremiah, tell the people, don't be anxious.
A great big pile of leaves.
I know the outcome of what it was doesn't seem like what God said would be or that is. And when you look at some stuff, how the eviction went through, when you look at some stuff and see that you thought was for you, it wasn't for you. When you look at some stuff and see that yes, the grace of God is on you, but you still can't get people to stand next to you. It's difficult. when God says, point out to them, don't be anxious. So how do I preach it and not cry about it? He said, remember when I brought you through that? I said, God, how do I preach it and encourage somebody else when it hurts me? He said, remember that the hurt, it helped you heal. I said, God, how do I preach it, speak it, encourage somebody else going through it, tell them that you're going to pull them out of it when I still feel like I'm in it? He said, you may feel like you're in it, but I want you to know today that the only reason you can feel it is because it didn't take you out. It didn't turn out the way that you thought that it would. It didn't kill you. It didn't take your mind. It did not take your strength. It may have taken some stuff from you. It may have hurt you, but believe you me, if I'm God, I'm gonna make sure that it helps you. That's what it says. He said, tell the people, don't be anxious. He said, don't be anxious for anything. It says everything after prayer, after supplication, everything after you've consulted him. Since he said, don't be anxious. That's all I wanted somebody to know. Somebody's over there stressed out about the coronavirus. Somebody's over there stressed out about a man. Somebody's over there stressed out about if their hairline is going to grow back. I said, don't be anxious. Don't be anxious about the car. Them folk out there, don't be anxious about if he's going to pay it, if you're going to eat tomorrow. Don't be anxious about anything. Here we go. He said, consider the lilies. You hear me? He said, consider the lilies of the valley. I hear you. He said, I want you to consider them because some places I've planted you that I needed you to grow out of, because the place where I put you is a place that I did not bury you. It may have felt like you was under it. He said it felt like you was under it. Because I was covering you. That's what he said. So I was covering you. I didn't bury you. I was just covering you. That's why some stuff couldn't get to you. That's why some stuff you thought was a blessing for you missed you. That's why there's some people who couldn't get close enough and touch you how you felt, because he said, I was covering you. I put you in the ground, and sometimes it seemed like you was buried. But let me tell you today that the sign that you were not buried is that you grew. You grew. You grew beyond what they knew. You grew beyond where they said you would come here and die. You grew beyond that. You grew over that. You grew through that. He said, I want you to know, to consider. Jeremiah, I told the people, don't be anxious, but I told them to consider the lilies of the valley. And I know that when they begin to grow, I'm not going to be on this all day. I got to go to Walmart. When they begin to grow, they sprout, they break ground. You hear me? And then somewhere the Bible says that he was the lily of the valley. You know what I'm talking about? I'm talking about the bright and morning star. But before we get there, when the flower breaks ground, when the plant begins to peak ground, I believe something called germination happens. I'm not sure if that's in the ground. I'm not sure if that's when it sprouts. I'm not sure if it's at the point that it begins to grow leaves, but I know that it happens. And somewhere God came in and transformed your life and changed it from the inside out. And you may not be able to recognize or pinpoint when it happened, but you know that it happened. And as long as you know on the inside that everything that God ordained for me is because it was to happen for me. It's not for you to just come here and just think that it's happening everything around you, that you see them sprouting, you see them growing, you see them getting this, and you see them going through that. No. He said, I'm doing it for you, but I'm doing it so that you cannot identify when it happened. Just know that it did. And today I'm thankful for God. Today I'm thankful for the germination. Today I'm thankful for the doubting place that I didn't know if God was still doing it for me. He says, I'm doing it even if you see it or not. I'm doing it if they acknowledge it or not. I'm doing it if you give me glory for it or not, because I'm just God enough, big enough to not be offended by if you're planted and can't even see it. I'm sprouting you. I'm building you. God says, consequently, I'm the lily of the valley with you. And before I go, somebody said, Jeremiah, he's not only the lily of the valley, but he's the bright and morning star. Somebody said he's not only that, Jeremiah, he's the Alpha and the Omega. Jeremiah, he's not only that, but he's the beginning and the end. I said, Jeremiah, he's not only that, but he's the author and the perfecter of your faith. Jeremiah, he's not only that, he's what's been pulling you. He's what's been holding you when you wanted to fall apart. He's what's been solidifying everything that you thought you'd lose. He was holding it in his hands. That's what he's been. I don't know every verse and I don't know every title. I don't know every name, but I know he's a keeper. I know he is a puller. I know he's a strengthener. I know God is an endurer of anybody who can't get through it. He says he'll endure with you. I don't know what book said it. I said it. I said he'll sit with you. I said he'll be in the car with you when ain't nobody else to talk to you. He'll be in the house or the hotel. He'll be outside with you when ain't nobody else coming through to see about you. I know him to be that. That ain't no verse. That's just my verse that God has been here. Everybody may have walked away and left, but you got to look around and say, God, I thank you that you're still here. I've been ignoring you, but you're still here. I've been shading on you, but you're still here. I've been doubting you and not saying it was you who came through when everybody else didn't even see me or see you. It was God who did it. And I just came today to tell somebody, don't be anxious because God is with you. Don't be overly excited about it. Don't be too anxious in it. Don't even look at it in too much excitement about it, but just say, God, on the inside, I thank you for doing it. I thank you for putting up with it. I thank you for still being in it. I thank you. Even though it hurts me, makes me anxious, makes me doubtful. He says, don't be anxious, Jeremiah. Know that I'm still God. Whether you see it, know it, believe it or not, and I'm still going to be good. Don't be anxious. That's it. Oh my God. God bless you today.